Welcome, everyone. It's Tuesdays with TLR. I'm Mary Tips, the Executive Director of Texans for Lawsuit Reform, joined with my colleague, Lee Parsley, President and General Counsel. And today, we're thrilled to have a special guest, our close friend, Chairman Jeff Leach. Welcome.
Mary, Lee, it's great to be with you. Thanks for having me.
Well, thanks for coming. Okay, Chairman, it's halfway through. How are things looking?
Well, I think things are looking great. You're right. We're halfway through the session, and the House has spent the last few months, the last several weeks, getting up and running under new Speaker Dustin Burrows, and he's done a really great job picking good staff and putting the right people in the right positions over our substantive standing committees in the House. Bills are starting to flow through the process, and it normally every session takes the House a little bit longer than the Senate to get up and running, and that's certainly the case this session. But here we are halfway through, and nearly all of the governor's priority items and the major legislation for the state of Texas is starting to be heard in committee, and here shortly, probably next week, we'll start to see it on the House floor. So things are great. I think we're well positioned to end this session in a successful way without the need for a special session. And the next 70 days, though, are what matters.
Well, there are like 6,000 bills filed in the House.
Yeah.
Have you read them all?
Every single one of them, a couple times.
I had a sense that was true.
No, I haven't, but our good staffers have, and we will by the end of the day. Certainly the ones that hit our committee and reach the House floor. We'll spend a lot of time digging deep and getting our hands dirty on policy and making sure we're doing the right things for the state of Texas. As you know, in those 6,000 bills, there's a lot of really good ideas. There's also some bad ones too. And
we've heard.
You've heard, right? What's the saying that whenever the legislature's in session, your life, your liberty, and your property are in jeopardy,
right.
And that's certainly true here in the legislature as well. So, killing bad legislation, protecting people from bills that do no good, and then focusing on the ones that are necessary to strengthen our state. That's what we're focused on.
You've done this for a couple of sessions where you've been chairman of the Judiciary
Right.
and Civil Jurisprudence Committee. And so give us a sense about how many bills you would expect to get in the committee and how many of them you will hear. In other words, the committee process is a little bit of a intentional weeding out process, I think,
It's
right?
also a mystery to people that they don't
Sure.
understand it.
Well, look, it's a mystery to some legislators. It's a mystery to some committee chairmen, to be honest. This is my fourth session chairing the Judiciary Committee. This is the first session that we've got a standing subcommittee on family relationships and fiduciary relationships, chaired by Chairman Harold Dutton. And so I think all total, our committee and subcommittee will have at least a few hundred bills referred to our committee and under our jurisdiction. If past sessions are any indication, all of the major tort reform legislation that TLR works so hard on and cares about will come through our committee. Legislation relating to the operation of courts across the state, from the Supreme Court down to our county courts at law and JP courts. And so all of that will come through our committee. And like we've tried to do every single session, my focus as chairman, is to make sure that our courts are open and accessible, fair to every single Texan who finds themselves in a court, whether as a plaintiff or as a defendant, and that we're also at the same time weeding out lawsuits that are overburdening the system. And so I look forward to continuing to do that this session.
And that's your really primary legislation you're working on this session. That, and tell us a little bit about what other things.
Well, we've done a lot of really great work over the past few sessions in achieving that important goal, and I'm so grateful to the work of TLR and this great network of not only legal tort reform minds and talent, but just the business community at large. Businesses of all sizes, large corporations, publicly traded, down to small mom and pop shops who realize that what happens in the executive branch and the legislative branch, of course, matters to them and to their employees and to their bottom line, but also what happens in the judicial branch matters just as much, if I would say even more so. And so partnering with you and with all of them, making sure that when you find yourself subject to a lawsuit or needing to file a lawsuit, when you find yourself needing to go into the court to protect your rights, that we have a system in Texas that, like I said, is fair and transparent and open to everybody, whether they can afford the best of the best lawyers or not. And we're well on our way to doing that. I'm proud of what we've done in recent sessions, but we've got more work to do this session.
Well, we're excited to have you be the sponsor for our anti-SLAPP bill.
Yep. I'm excited to continue our work on this important legislation.
Well, we're going to get it done this session, right? I feel sure about this. So I want to start on the anti-SLAPP just to say that Jeff Leach, TLR, none of us are trying to shut down First Amendment rights.
No.
So let me open that way. That's our goal, is to make sure that our anti-SLAPP bill, which you can describe for us in a minute, works like it was designed to work and protects First Amendment rights, and then doesn't weight down other people's legitimate lawsuits. And so tell us a little about that.
Yeah, there's a lot of misinformation about our efforts on the anti-SLAPP bills, and I think a lot of it is frankly intentional and misleading. We don't need to get into exactly what those attacks are and who they're coming from, but my focus is, and I think what TLRs and really it's across the board, even the trial lawyers and other corporations have come out, other advocacy groups have come out realizing that we need to go back to and preserve the original intent of the statute. When it was passed in 2011 in the House and the Senate, it was rightfully so branded and sold as a measure and a statute to protect, as you said, the First Amendment rights of Texans. It really was a shield to protect Texans who are speaking out, who are utilizing their First Amendment rights, and a shield for them from abusive lawsuits. Unfortunately, over the last 15 years, it has become more of a sword, an unwieldy sword, from clever, crafty litigators who've been using it to shut down lawsuits, and I think to work against the preservation of justice. And so what I want to do, I think what you want to do as well, Lee, is to really work to preserve the statute back to its original intent. And that's what I've always argued. That's what the work we've done over the past few sessions has been aimed at, and that's what we're going to do this session as well. And I would invite people who believe in the integrity of the statute to join us in that effort. We have a great opportunity to strengthen it this session, and I welcome any and every, all parties who want to help us in that effort.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I would love to have everyone who cares about this statute join us, and all of us go together and come up with a reasonable solution, which you filed. You've got a great bill on this. And so for our listeners, let me give just a quick view of what the SLAPP is. It's an acronym, Strategic Lawsuit Against Public Participation. And the idea is that if I'm out with a picket sign protesting some plant next door because I'm mad about whatever they're doing, that owner of that plant may sue me to shut me up. They don't think I'm actually doing anything wrong, but they think they've got more money than I do. And if they pursue a lawsuit, then just the cost of litigation, I'll quit picketing and I'll go do something else. That's a SLAPP, a lawsuit against public participation. And the statute is designed to protect me or whomever who's out participating in the public sphere, talking about something important to the public in general. And it gives me or whomever the ability to get that lawsuit dismissed quickly and make the other side pay my lawyer's fees. That's a perfectly good idea. In fact, it's a great idea. But the problem, as you know, is that the way the thing is written, people use it in cases that have nothing to do with the First Amendment rights. And that's the problem. And the statute from the very beginning, here's, I think, part of the important thing is the statute says it's protecting two rights, First Amendment rights and the right of other people to access the courts. So there are two constitutional rights at play. And one of those rights is winning today in that statute, and the other right is losing. The access to the court is just getting buried under the protection of First Amendment rights. And so because it's being abused by lawyers who find that there's an advantage to doing what they're doing. And fixing it is just the right thing for us to do.
Yeah, we're seeing it, I think, as well said and perfectly summarized. That's the original intent of the statute. Unfortunately, it's become almost a necessity for lawyers to consider in every single lawsuit, whatever it might be, a family lawsuit, could be a divorce setting or something dealing with child custody, termination of parental rights, to tax lawsuits, employment lawsuits. I mean, you name the dispute. Every single lawyer that I know of is going to ask themselves, is this a case in which I could possibly throw an anti-SLAPP motion out to shut the lawsuit down, to delay it, and to make it more costly? And that was never the original intent of the lawsuit. It has become abused, intentionally abused by practitioners across the state. Many judges over the years have been overburdened and in many cases filled. Their dockets are filled with SLAPP motions. And so it's become a burden on the system all across the state at all levels. And it's really been turned into something it was never intended to be. And I think it's incumbent upon us to strengthen the First Amendment protections afforded to Texans by really not curtailing the the statute, but fine-tuning it and improving and strengthening it. And that's, I know, what TLR and what we're going to be focused on doing.
That's the key here. It's fixable.
It is fixable.
It's not irreparable. We just need to fix it. And again, I'm like you. I hope the people who care about this statute join with us to fix it.
Sure.
That's what really needs to happen, is for all of us to together figure out how to fix this statute. And you've got a great bill to do that, which we appreciate you're working on.
Well, thank you. Thank you for your help on it. Senator Hughes has got it in the Senate, and I'm confident that we can get it through, and we'll get it through this session.
Chairman, while we're here, let's also talk about the trucking bill, if you have a few moments.
I'd love to. Very important piece of legislation that we've filed. I've got it in the House, and Chairman Birdwell has it in the Senate. And look, we've got a problem in the state when it comes to the affordability and frankly, the availability of commercial vehicle insurance. We've got companies of all sizes, like I mentioned earlier, that have really spoken out. The rising rate and cost of insurance, it's becoming a major problem where companies, like I said, of all sizes are having to make decisions about whether they can hire new employees or afford insurance. And one of the reasons for rising insurance costs is our litigation environment here in Texas and nationally. We've seen that. And so we passed legislation, as you know, House Bill 19 in 2021 that took a good swing at this, and I think and did a lot of really good things. But we need to go further this session. And Lee's the expert on this, so I'll defer to Lee to get into some of the details. But really, my mindset is, and my focus is like I said, making sure that our courts are open and accessible to plaintiffs and defendants, that they're fair, that the process and the rules that we put in place are fair for all involved. When someone is injured, they deserve to have their day in court. And if there are instances in which not only the driver but a company messed up, then the driver and the company should be held responsible and should work to make that injured party whole. No one's arguing against that. And I would never support legislation that closed off our court system to injured Texans. But the problem is when companies are being sued and brought into lawsuits who have done nothing wrong, who followed all the policies and procedures and the laws, and just simply get brought in so the insurance policy is at play for the plaintiff's lawyer. That's a problem. And we've seen these lawsuits being taken advantage of, and I think we need to go further to crack down on this environment that has kind of fostered these lawsuits all across our state. Lee's the expert on this.
Well, you're right. The challenge for us that do tort reform, and you've seen a lot of it come through your committee, is to draw a line that separates between the legitimate cases where people need access to their court system and they need a fair outcome and an efficient system to give them that fair outcome. And on the other hand, the cases that really shouldn't be pursued at all. And you see it over and over and over again in the world of commercial vehicle litigation, that someone who was not at fault ends up being sued, or that everybody involved in a fender bender gets out of their car and truck and say, we're fine, no problem, there's no injury. And then it turns out they find an attorney and they have $350,000 worth of unpaid medical bills.
Or the attorney finds them.
Or the attorney finds them. So we're trying, your bill is a procedure bill, and courts have to have procedures. There have to be rules of the road, and that's what your bill is working on, is what the rules of the road are. And it tries to draw the line between the legitimate lawsuits and the fender benders that no one's heard in, but yet it resulted in a lawsuit. And that's not always an easy task, but it's one, again, we have to undertake, and your bill does a great job of that. And that's really the key, I think, is for everyone to know that people who are in accidents with commercial vehicles or with anyone else can go to court and get a fair day in court and get a fair compensation out of it. At the same time, those people who haven't done anything wrong need to be able to get out of the system. They need to be able to move on with their life without suffering a multi-million-dollar verdict. And it's a challenge to write that law, but you've done a great job of it, we think, and we're happy to support you on passing an amendment to the House Bill 19 just to ensure that line is drawn in the right place and it achieves fairness for everyone. So it's a great piece of work.
Yeah, we've worked on it collaboratively. There's been a lot of stakeholders, a lot of voices and input into this legislation, and I wouldn't have it any other way. We welcome all those parties around the table to help us get this legislation right, because the laws that we pass here matter greatly when it comes to the court system, the operation of the court system, when evidence comes in, what evidence comes in, when it does, when it shouldn't. And ultimately, to your point, when you've got a company that is doing things the right way, that is crossing all the T's and dotting all the I's and going above and beyond to ensure the safety and the training of their drivers, and then they get pulled into a lawsuit that in many cases is potentially putting it out of business or making commercial vehicle insurance unattainable for them, that's a problem. Not just a problem for the company, but for all of us. So we can create a fair system in our courts. We can have safe roads. All of this, none of it is mutually exclusive. We could do all of it, and that's what this legislation is aimed at doing.
Right. Well, Mary's been working this session to build a coalition to support that bill.
Yeah.
We have over 1,100 members.
It's a phenomenal coalition of businesses of all sizes.
All sizes,
You've got,
and of all industries, too.
Sure. You've got the large publicly traded trucking companies. You've got, the UPSs of the world. You've got the Identifile, the Amazons. You've got all of that. But you also have the mom and pop shops that may own 1, 3, 5 vehicles, their commercial fleet. It might be as simple as them just putting
Firefighters Moving Company.
Right, where they just put a magnet on their car,
right.
And all of those deserve protection. Every single one of those companies deserve protection. And if they do wrong, if they're not training their drivers, if they're actually making our roads less safe, then our bill allows them to be held responsible. And so I'm excited about having the conversation in committee and hopefully passing this into law later this session.
Well, we're all for it. We're going to support you all the way.
Yeah.
And Texans as a whole will be better for it. The people who have legitimate cases will get to court quicker when you weed out the things that shouldn't be there.
Right.
And that's good for everyone. So we think it's a great idea, and we're happy to work with you on it again this session.
Well, thank you.
It's a
Look forward to
win-win.
working with you as well. Agree.
Chairman Leach, thank you, our dear friend, for being here with us today, our very first special guest, and we hope to have you back again before the end of the session.
Well, thank you. I'd love to do that. Thank you as well, Lee.
Thank you, Chairman.
Been an honor to be here.
We'll be back on April the Fool or April 1st, but that's no joke. Thank you.
Well played. I like it.